Chapter 3. Minnie. Standing on the white lady's back porch, I tell myself, tuck it in, Minnie. Tuck in whatever might fly out of my mouth and tuck in my behind, too. Look like a maid who does what she's told. Truth is, I'm so nervous right now I'd never backtalk again if it meant I'd get this job. I yank my hose up from sagging around my feet, the trouble of all fat, short women around the world. Then I rehearse what to say, what to keep to myself. I go ahead and punch the bell. The doorbell rings a loud bing bong, fine and fancy for this big mansion out in the country. It looks like a castle, gray brick rising high in the sky and left and right too. Woods surround the lawn on every side. If this place was in a storybook, there'd be witches in those woods, the kinds that eat kids. The back door opens and there stands Miss Marilyn Monroe, or something kin to her. Hey there, you're right on time. I'm Celia Ray Foote. The white lady sticks her hand out to me and I study her. She might be built like Marilyn, but she ain't ready for no screen test. She's got flour in her yellow hairdo, flour in her glue-on eyelashes, and flour all over that tacky pink pantsuit. Her standing in a cloud of dust and that pantsuit being so tight, I wonder how she could breathe. Yes, ma'am, I'm Minnie Jackson. I soothed down my white uniform instead of shaking her hand. I don't want that mess on me. You cooking something? One of those upside-down cakes from the magazine, she sighs. It ain't working out too good. I follow her inside, and that's when I see Miss Celia Ray Foote suffered only a minor injury in the flour fiasco. The rest of the kitchen took the real hit. Countertops, the double-door refrigerator, the KitchenAid mixer are all sitting in about a quarter-inch of snow flour. It's enough mess to drive me crazy. I ain't even got the job yet, and I'm already looking at the sink for a sponge. Miss Celia says, I guess I have some learning to do. Sure do, I say, but I bite down hard on my tongue. Don't go sassing this white lady like you done the other. Sassed her all the way to the nursing home. But Miss Celia just smiles and washes the muck off her hands in a sink of dishes. I wonder if maybe I found myself another deaf one, like Miss Walters was. Let's hope so. I just can't seem to get the hang of kitchen work, she says. And even with Marilyn's whispery Hollywood voice, I could tell right off she's from way out in the country. I look down and see the fool doesn't have any shoes on, like some kind of white trash. Nice white ladies don't go around barefoot. She's probably 10 or 15 years younger than me, 22, 23, and she's real pretty. But why is she wearing all that goo on her face? I bet she got on double the makeup the other ladies wear. She's got a lot more bosom to her, too. In fact, she's almost as big as me, except she's skinny in places I ain't. I hope she's an eater, because I'm a cooker, and that's why people hire me. Can I get you a cold drink? She asks. Sit down. I'll bring you something. And that's my clue. Something funny's going on here. Leroy, she got to be crazy, I said when she called me up 3 days ago and asked if I'd come in for an interview, because everybody in town think I stole Miss Walters' silver. And I know she do, too, because she called Miss Walters up on the phone when I was there. White people strange, Leroy said. Who knows? Maybe that old woman give you a good word. I look at Miss Celia Ray Foote hard. I've never in my life had a white woman tell me to sit down so she could serve me a cold drink. Shoot. Now I'm wondering if this fool even plans on hiring a maid, or if she just drugged me way out here for sport. Maybe. We better go over and see the house first, ma'am. She smiles like the thought never entered that hair-sprayed head of hers. Let me see the house. I might be cleaning. Oh, of course. Come in yonder, Maxie. I'll show you the fancy dining room first. The name, I say, is Minnie. Maybe she's not deaf or crazy. Maybe she's just stupid. Shiny hope rises up in me. All over that big old dutied-up house, she walks and talks, and I follow. There are 10 rooms downstairs and one with a stuffed grizzly bear that looks like it ate the last maid and is biding for the next one. A burnt-up Confederate flag is framed on the wall, and on the table is an old pistol with the name Confederate General John Foote engraved on it. I bet great-granddaddy Foote scared some slaves with that thing. We move on, and it starts to look like any nice white house, except this one's the biggest I've ever been in, and full of dirty floors and dusty rugs, the kind folks who don't know any better would say is worn out. But I know an antique when I seen one. I've worked in some fine homes. I just hope she ain't so country she don't own a Hoover. Johnny's mama wouldn't let me decorate a thing. I had my way, there'd be wall-to-wall white carpet and gold trim. None of this old stuff. Where are your people from, I ask her. I'm from Sugar Ditch. Her voice drops down a little. Sugar Ditch is as low as you can go in Mississippi, maybe the whole United States. It's up in Tunica County, almost to Memphis. I saw pictures in the paper one time showing those tenant shacks. Even the white kids looked like they hadn't had a meal for a week. Miss Celia tries to smile and says, "This is my first time hiring a maid." "Well, you sure need one. Now, Minnie." I was real glad to get the recommendation from Mrs. Walters. She told me all about you, said your cooking was the best in town. That makes zero sense to me. After what I did to Miss Hilly, right in front of Miss Walters? She say anything else about me? But Miss Celia's already walking up a big curving staircase. I follow her upstairs to a long hall with sun coming through the windows. Even though there are two yellow bedrooms for girls and a blue one and a green one for boys, it's clear there aren't any children living here, just dust. We've got 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms over here in the main house. She points out the window, and I see a big blue swimming pool. And behind that, another house. My heart thumps. And there's the pool house out yonder. I'd take any job I can get at this point, but a big house like this should pay plenty. And I don't mind being busy. I ain't afraid to work. When you going to have some chillin'? Start filling up these beds? I try to smile and look friendly. Oh, we're going to have kids. She clears her throat and fidgets. I mean, kids is the only thing worth living for. She looks down at her feet. A second passes before she heads back to the stairs. I follow behind and noticing how she holds the stair rail tight on the way down like she's afraid she might fall. It's back in the dining room that Miss Celia starts shaking her head. It's an awful lot to do, she says, all the bedrooms and floors. Yes, ma'am, it's big, I say, thinking if she saw my house with a cot in the hall and one toilet for 6 behind, she'd probably run. But I got lots of energy. And then there's all this silver to clean. She opens up a silver closet the size of my living room. She fixes a candle that's turned funny on the candelabra, and I see why she's looking doubtful. After the town got word of Miss Hilly's lies, 3 ladies in a row hung up the minute I said my name. I'm ready myself to take the blow. Say it, lady. Say what you thinking about me and your silver. I feel like crying, thinking about how this job would suit me fine and what Miss Hilly's done to keep me from getting it. I fix my eyes on the window, hoping and praying this isn't where the interview ends. I know these windows are awful high. I never tried to clean them before. I let my breath go. Windows are a heck of a lot better subject than silver. Well, I ain't afraid of no windows. I clean Miss Walters top to bottom every 4 weeks. Did she have just the one floor or a double-decker? Well, one, but there's a lot to it. Old house has got a lot of crooks and nannies, you know. Nooks and crannies. Finally, we go back in the kitchen. We both stare down at the breakfast table, but neither one of us sits. I'm getting jittery and wondering what she's thinking, and my head starts to sweat. You got a big, pretty house, I say, all the way out here in the country. Lot of work to be done. She starts fiddling with her wedding ring. I guess Mrs. Walters was a lot easier than this would be. I mean, it's just us now. But when we get to having kids, you got other maids you considering? She sighs. A bunch have come out here. I just haven't found the right one yet. She bites on her fingernails and shifts her eyes away. I wait for her to say I'm not the right one either. But we just stand there, breathing in that flower. Finally, I play my last card and whisper, because it's all I got left. You know, I only left Miss Walters 'cause she's going to the rest home. She didn't fire me, but she just stares at her feet, black-soled because her floors haven't been scrubbed since she moved in this big old dirty house, and it's clear this lady doesn't want me. Well, I appreciate you driving all this way. Can I at least give you some money for gas? I pick my pocketbook up and thrust it under my armpit. She gives me a cheery smile. I could wipe off with one swat. Damn that Hilly Holbrook. No, ma'am, you cannot. I knew it was going to be a chore finding someone, but I stand there listening to her acting all sorry. But I just think, get it over with, lady, so I can go tell Leroy we got to move all the way to the North Pole next to Santa Claus, where nobody has heard Hilly's lies about me. And if I were you, I wouldn't want to clean this house either. I look at her square on. Now that's just excusing a little too much, pretending Minnie ain't getting the job 'cause Minnie don't want the job. When you hear me say I don't want to clean this house, oh, it's all right. 5 maids have already told me it's too much work. I look down at my 165-pound, 5'0" self practically bursting out of my uniform. Too much for me? She blinks at me a second. You'll do it? Why you think I drove all the way out to Kingdom Come just to burn gas? I clamp my mouth shut. Don't go ruining this now. She's offering you a job. Miss Celia, I'd be happy to work for you. She laughs, and the crazy woman goes to hug me, but I step back a little, let her know that's not the kind of thing I do. Hang on now. We gotta talk about some things first. You gotta tell me what days you want me here and what kind of thing. Like how much you paying. I guess whenever you feel like coming. For Miss Walters, I work Sunday through Friday. Miss Celia chews some more on her pinky nail. You can't come here on the weekends. All right. I need the days, but maybe later on she'll let me do party serving or whatnot. Monday through Friday, then. Now, what time you want me to come in the morning? What time do you want to come in? I never had a choice before. I feel my eyes narrow up. How about 8? That's when Miss Walters used to get me in. All right, 8's real good. Then she stands there like she's waiting for my next checker move. Now you're supposed to tell me what time I got to leave. What time? Asks Celia. I roll my eyes at her. Miss Celia, you're supposed to tell me that. That's how it works. She swallows, like she's trying real hard to get this down. I just want to get through this before she changes her mind about me. How about 4 o'clock? I work 8 to 4, and I get some time for lunch, or what have you. That's just fine. Now we got to talk about pay. I say, and my toes start wiggling in my shoes. It must not be much if 5 maids already said no. Neither one of us says anything. Now come on, Miss Celia. What's your husband say you can pay? She looks off at the Vegematic I bet she can't even use and says, Johnny doesn't know. All right then, ask him tonight what he wants to pay. No, Johnny doesn't know I'm bringing in help. My chin drops down to my chest. What you mean he don't know? I'm not telling Johnny. Her blue eyes are big. She's scared to death of him. And what's Mr. Johnny gonna do if he come home and find a colored woman up in his kitchen? I'm sorry, I just can't. I'll tell you what he's gonna do. He's gonna get that pistol and shoot Minnie dead right here on this no-wax floor. Miss Celia shakes her head. I'm not telling. Then I got to go. I say, shoot, I knew it. I knew she was crazy when I walked in that door. It's not that I'd be fibbing to him. I just need a maid. Of course you need a maid. Last one done got shot in the head. He never comes home during the day. Just do the heavy cleaning and teach me how to fix supper, and it'll only take a few months. My nose prickles from something burning. I see a waft of smoke coming in from the oven. And then what? You gonna fire me after them months? Then I'll tell him. But she says, like she's frowning at the thought, please, I want him to think I can do it on my own. I want him to think I'm worth the trouble. Miss Celia, I say, shake my head, not believing I'm already arguing with this lady, and I haven't worked here 2 minutes. I think you done burned your cake. She grabs a rag and rushes to the oven and jerks the cake out. Ow! Doggone it! I set my pocketbook down, sidle out of the way. You can't use no wet towel on a hot pan. I grab a dry rag and take the black cake out of the door and set it on the concrete slab. Miss Celia stares down at the burned hand. Mrs. Walters said you was a real good cook. That old woman would eat 2 butter beans and say she was full. I couldn't get her to eat nothing. How much was she paying you? $1 an hour. I feel kind of ashamed. 5 years and not even minimum wage. Then I'll pay you 2. And I feel all the breath slip out of me. When Mr. Johnny get out of the house in the morning, I ask, cleaning up the butter stick, melting right on the counter, not even a plate under it. 6. He can't stand to do Dad around here very long. Then he heads back from his real estate office about 5. I do some figuring, and even with fewer hours, it would be more pay. But I can't get paid if I get shot dead. I'll leave at 3 then. Give myself 2 hours coming and going so I can stay out of his way. Good. It's best to be safe. On the back, Miss Celia dumps the cake in a paper sack. I'll bury this in the waste bin so he won't know I've burned up the other one. I take the bag out of her hands. Mr. Johnny ain't seeing nothing. I'll throw it away at my house. Oh, thank you. Miss Celia shakes her head like that's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for her. She holds her hand in tight little fists under her chin. I walk out to my car. I sit in the sagging seat of the Ford Leroy's still paying his boss $12 every week for. Relief hits me. I have finally gotten myself a job. I don't have to move to North Pole. Won't Santa Claus be disappointed?